So we have everything from our content writers, our strategists, developers, designers, all under one roof. I'm going to jump into the presentation because I want to make sure I leave enough time for some questions for you guys and give you enough information and make sure it's impactful enough for you all. So one of the things you want to think about, and I think that's really important, are what are your challenges? You guys can put things in the chat if you want, or I could answer these after, but really think about what are the challenges? What are you looking to accomplish? You need to start here. I mean, that's the basis for everything. If you're not understanding your challenges, then it's going to be really hard to plan out what you're looking to do. And when thinking through those challenges, you want to really understand your organization's mission, its vision, who you serve, why they would need your help, and what that social impact is. So it's very important, like throughout, to really understand these key things, because this is going to help set up the foundation for what you're doing and who you're targeting when creating content and putting it out there. I'm going to take you guys through a couple case studies first. I got about 3 case studies I want to touch on. These case studies are clients that we work with on an ongoing basis, but we also do campaigns throughout. And a lot of times with nonprofits, you guys will have different upcoming events or different things you're looking to promote throughout the year as well, along with just increasing your brand awareness and gathering donations and having volunteers, etc. So with this case study, this was with one of the biggest environmental nonprofits in New Jersey. They were looking to essentially increase awareness and drive donations for a big event they were having. It was essentially, for them, it was like the Super Bowl for bird watching, essentially, for this program they were having. And actually, we got a lot of traction from this. What we did was we created a landing page that was solely focused on the campaign, that was informational about what they were looking to do. And we launched a Facebook social media campaign where we targeted not only their existing audience, but we targeted people with similar qualities. So with Facebook, one of the nice things we're able to do is we're able to take existing lists, for example, for this client, and plug that into the back of social media and create what we call lookalike audiences. These lookalike audiences then go out and find people with similar qualities, like your perfect donor out there. So we're able to take that and really expand the reach and make sure that we were serving ads in front of the right people and getting in front of the right people at all times. So as you can see here, we reached 500,000 people. This was pretty much a month-long specific campaign geared towards getting not only registrants to come, but donations. So we got 500,000 people. The campaign reached. The landing page increased by 84%. So there was 84% more views from the year previously. There was 15,000 landing views. We had 57,000 visitors to Facebook. And then the impressions, as you can see here, were tenfold, 1,260% increase from the previous year. So these statistics are comparing from the previous year, from when they didn't really do anything before engaging. And we also were able to surpass their donation goal as well. Similar to that case study, in case study 2, it was a campaign we ran that was intended to feed frontline workers. So during COVID, obviously the frontline workers were out there on the front lines doing a lot of work. So through this charity, we were looking to not only raise money for the organization and to help with these small businesses, but also be able to find donors around in the local area, Morristown, where we were, that were willing to donate as well as deliver food to these frontline workers, to show appreciation for what they're doing. With this, very similar to the first case study, we were very specific. We didn't have an existing list for this, but we were able to target people within a specific geography. We were able to get very specific as far as targeting people that have restaurants or were willing to donate. So we basically ran Facebook and Instagram campaigns that reached, it was very successful. As you can see here, we had over 7,600 meals donated, going to over 125 frontline organizations. and we had 50 participating local businesses. So this was all done within 60 days. As you can see on the top line, $66,615 were raised. So it was very powerful, it was very impactful. The messaging was very timely, and it was for a great cause during these trying times for people during COVID. And this last case study I'll take you guys through before I kind of walk you through some different tactics and different things that you might want to think of or apply, was we have an organization that essentially they work with children that are grieving for a lost one. So if they lost a father or mother, this program basically has different types of programs that they run as far as helping them through that grieving process and along the way and along that journey. Because as you can imagine, it's a very difficult experience for any child or person in general. So with this campaign, we have ongoing campaigns that we're doing with them, but this was very specific to increasing their awareness across the tri-state area. They had a very good core, and they have a very good core of people that provide donations that come to their events, but they're looking to increase that awareness because they felt they were missing out on a bigger opportunity as far as expanding that reach. So what we did was we leveraged one of the ambassadors who actually, similar to what Good Grief is about, lost his parents at a young age. He's a player for the New York Giants and was up for a Walter Payton Man of the Year award. So we leveraged that, promoting all the goodwill he's done for the organization, along with reaching out to not only fans of football, but people within the tri-state area. So we kind of piggybacked on this really great award that he was up for, the fact that he was an ambassador for this organization, and letting people understand that this program exists for children out there, and really talk to, what the offerings are and how it could help them. So with this campaign, this was a 1-month campaign. You can see some of the data to the right. I just took some screen grabs from some of the analytics. So from the previous month, the social traffic increased by 1,304%. So that's a huge increase from the previous period, from before we started engagement or doing anything. So they saw a huge increase in social traffic. And a lot of that comes down to the messaging and the right targeting and getting in front of the right people. They went from 269 users to 3,777 users to their website. So over that course of the previous month, this was the first engagement we had with this organization. So they were doing things internally and they were doing things well, but we were able to kind of help guide them along the way and really help drive that traffic and increase that brand awareness. And as you can see here, there was 36% increase in web traffic, as well as 401 new page likes as well. So we saw a great impact with this. Again, it was very specific. We were able to promote not only an ambassador who was very important to the organization and has donated a lot and volunteered a lot of time, but was also up for a Walter Payton of the Year Man Award for the NFL, showcasing his goodwill for helping out with this organization. So I'm going to start to jump into some tactics for you guys, just to kind of give you some top level things that you could think of, different, areas where maybe you could kind of fill in the gaps, or your internal team could work on, or if you're working with an agency or looking for an agency, these are some of the things you could think of. When it comes to content and content development, there's so many different mediums. So you want to think of the different mediums that you could essentially leverage. And I'm going to talk through these a little bit in more detail, but just to give you just top level, you have website, you have blog posts, you have infographics, which are visual representations. You have case studies, videos are super powerful, podcasts, social media, ebooks. So there's all these different mediums that you could utilize to get your message out there, to interact with your audience, and to help drive donations, increase that brand awareness for your organization. When creating this content, so I want to give you guys just some 5 steps to think about when creating this content. So again, going back to the beginning of the presentation, you want to identify what these challenges are, and you want to really think through these challenges and really think through what your mission statement is and who you are as an organization and how you help, and what the social impact means. So when doing that and when really thinking and understanding that, then you could start to identify your target audience. because without really understanding that baseline of everything, it's going to be difficult to really understand who your target audience is, who you're looking to get in front of, and who's going to be consuming that content. So it's very important to really understand that baseline. I can't stress it enough before going to market with some type of strategy, because what essentially will happen is you might not see the return or as much traffic, as far as when putting this content out. When you want to determine how each audience is going to relate to your organization and your programs, you want to research and understand how to best communicate with this audience. So really start to think through this once you've identified that, and to begin to develop this content. You want to have a content calendar. So you really want to focus on having a content calendar. This is going to help you manage not only your content creation, but different publishing timelines, so that you're staying on point, you're staying consistent, you're getting that content out there. And then you want to execute, manage, monitor, and pivot. Meaning you want to, now that you have all these things in place, you want to be able to execute it. You got to manage it. You're going to have to monitor it, because you're going to need to test and basically keep an eye on what's working and what's not, and then be able to pivot. I'm going to start website optimization. So one of the things, and just drilling into some of the different things a little bit deeper, is website optimization. So with website optimization, you want to make sure there's three things you always want to keep in mind. It's the user experience. So what is the visitor's journey? What is the content? What are they getting out of it when they land on your website? Is the information, going to relate to what your mission is and what your values are? The voice, which is the content, right? Like I'm talking about now. So what is the content? What are they going to understand? How are they going to understand what offerings you have, and what is going to make it impactful to them now that you drive them to your website? And then the feel of your website. It's important to have calls to actions. You want to make sure it's mobile friendly. You just want to make sure these little things are, the website is the basis of all your marketing. This is where you're driving all your traffic. So you really want to make sure that you have your website optimized as best you can. And these are things you could do on yourself. You could, when understanding, you can update the content. Some of the UX changes or the visitor's journey, if you're looking for design changes, you might need some outside help. But these are things, at least from a content perspective, that you can make sure that you have right on your website. SEO, as some of you may know, you hear these are different tactics, and a lot of tactics that we'll work with different organizations. So with SEO, there's the technical aspect of things on the back end. But as an organization, some of the things you could do on your own is make sure that some of the content is constantly updated. If you have a blog, that is another important piece. Google loves content. So make sure you're constantly updating your blog, putting out content. If you don't have a blog, then maybe think about putting a blog out there. It's good to just put thought leadership content out there, talk about your organization, the impact that it has, promote different types of events that you have upcoming. So these are all things that you could do on your own for sure. If you have any video content out there as well, creating a YouTube page, video is very impactful and very powerful way to get your message across in a visual way. People love consuming content visually nowadays too as well, especially with so much content being out there. So it's another important piece that you could leverage as far as getting your messaging out there. And then PPC. PPC is pay per click. That is, unless you have the in-house capability, something like this, I would recommend either maybe, utilizing an agency for, or you could make an attempt at doing it yourself. This essentially are the ads that you'll see, which are the top 3 ads. You have specific keywords that you want people to find you for when they're searching in Google. So this is kind of a pay to play when it comes to Google. Social media is probably going to have the biggest impact for all of you across all brands that we work with, across all verticals, but even specifically for nonprofits, like the first 3 case studies I took you through. The nice thing with social media is we're able to get very specific. You're really able to kind of, hone in on who you're targeting, what that audience is, geography. You're able to, have a visual ad along with some content, and then drive them back to a landing page. So you have organic posting with social media, but then there's also sponsored posts, which I'm sure a lot of you have seen or know what that is, which essentially, like Google, you would pay to have your posts out there as far as reaching your audience. So if you're looking to expand that reach, and a lot of what I took you guys through in those first case studies, there was an ad spend behind what we were doing. And that's what allowed us to really expand that reach, get that messaging out there. And the nice thing with Facebook is when doing that, you're also able to create what we call lookalike audiences. And what lookalike audiences essentially are if you have an email list, or say you have your 20 best donors or 50 or 100, whatever it is, we're able to take that and plug it into the back end of Facebook, and utilizing its artificial intelligence, it goes out and finds people that meet those attributes. So it'll essentially go out and find people that have similar likabilities, similar qualities within a specific geography. So it'll really be able to serve your ad in front of people similar to that. So you're really getting specific and able to target the right people and make sure that your ads are getting in front of the right people. And one other thing I'll touch on too with social media is the retargeting aspect, which I'm sure if you click on a landing page or you click on an ad in the past, you'll notice later on at some point, whether you're shopping for something, as you're on your social media feed or even a website, you'll see that ad pop up, right? So that's another beneficial piece to social media that you're able to utilize, really getting that brand and getting your messaging back in front of your audience and just keeping top of mind for them. Because sometimes, people might, see your ad and it may not be at a time where they're ready to make, a move or donate or don't have the time to kind of dig a bit deeper, but maybe they do later on when it's 9 o'clock at night and they're sitting in their bed and they're just going through social media, and then there your ad pops up. So it's just another way to kind of increase that awareness and get in front of your audience. Email marketing, not sure if, I'm sure a lot of you have a list, but it works very well when it comes to just getting that messaging back out there, promoting different types of events. And it works well when, used with an overall strategy. We find this to be one of the biggest lead generators for us is the email marketing. This is kind of tip of the funnel where essentially they've seen your ad, they've filled out a form, and now whether they've registered for, let's say, an event, or maybe they haven't, we're able to kind of feed that content, get that messaging in front of them, and really hit it home to drive them to take action. So with email marketing, these are things and tactics that you guys could do on your own. I recommend just thinking through the content and what it is that you're putting out there when emailing. You don't want it to become noise or things that people just kind of gloss over. You want it to be impactful. You want the subject line to be impactful, and you want the content to be impactful as well. So those are things to think of. If you have the capabilities in-house that you triggered emails, essentially what that is for every action, there's a reaction. So if somebody opens an email specific and goes to a landing page, they'll then be served another email, let's say 3 days later, relating to what they essentially clicked on. So let's say somebody clicks an ad and they're interested in becoming a donator, or they're interested in joining and coming to one of your events. They will then be served an ad or an email rather, 3 days later regarding that specific event. So it's just another way to keep reinforcing the messaging and getting in front of your audience. And the last tactic, what I'll leave you guys with, and then I'll take any questions that you might have, is the creative and strategy. So tying all these tactics together, one of the biggest things that you want to make sure is that you have great creative, a measured strategy. Otherwise, all these tactics are not going to be useful. It really is important to think about that. Going back to the front of the presentation, like I said, really thinking through what are your challenges, what is the impact of your organization, and having that baseline. From there, you'll be able to have the right creative that's gonna be impactful, along with the right messaging that's going to drive whatever action it is you're looking to achieve. And with that, I'll take any questions. I appreciate that and everyone's time. Definitely open to if anyone has questions on the side or just wants to have a conversation, or there's any way I could help you further as far as questions you have when it comes to marketing or different things that you're looking to do internally. I'm definitely always willing to, give as many tips or help you out as best I can.
So Frankie, we do have some questions in the chat already, so I'll go over those in a second, but I just want to encourage everybody. The easiest and most efficient way to do this is type in your question in the chat, and then I'll read some of them to Frankie.
Yeah, so, I don't see any.
Well, there was one. Okay, so one is a pretty obvious question. So money is tight, especially with nonprofits.
Yep.
And all of us who are tasked with this by our employers, our pressure is to do it in-house, so to do as much in-house. But if there was some money and we were going to hire somebody and we couldn't afford a full service campaign, yep, what would you suggest you spend your money on to get the most return on investment and be the most targeted? What do you suggest hiring an agency for versus doing in-house?
Great question. Social media. So I could click back up there. I would say social media. And the reason I say that is because, again, you could get very targeted and specific with that. So if you have money that you can put towards one thing, definitely put it towards social media. You could get very specific. It's a lower cost to entry as far as like if you did Google pay-per-click. So I think you're going to see your best return. Again, keep in mind, understanding the audience, what that messaging is, and really thinking through. Make sure you have a strategic meeting with whatever agency it is you're working with. But definitely from an awareness and a reach standpoint, social media, I would say.
Great. So if that didn't answer your question, just to follow up in the chat. This question was mine, actually. I mean, I was intrigued by this lookalike audience generation. Yep. Is that complicated process? Is that something you need to pay Facebook for?
Correct. So when you're doing sponsored posts and there's an ad budget behind what you're looking to do, you're able to, in the back end, take an existing email list and plug it in, and then Facebook, you're able to utilize Facebook's artificial intelligence, and they'll go out and find people with similar qualities. So just to simplify it, like that first case study, we had that environmental organization. Basically everyone on that list probably has a lot of likes and qualities regarding anything with the environment. So now Facebook's going to go out and say, okay, we want people within this radius that essentially are between the ages of 45 and 60 and both male and female and have a big like or interest in environment, and your ads will start serving to those people. You also could utilize the data in the back end to create that as well, but it helps. The lookalike audiences is a really important part of the pie when doing sponsored posts. And to answer the previous question, Jeffrey, too, just to make sure, social media is good getting content out there from an organic standpoint, but again, if you're going to do social media and you're really trying to look to expand that reach, and get in front of a lot of people. And if you're promoting an event, let's say, you're going to have to put some money behind ad spend to really get out there.
Thanks, Frankie. That's good information to have. I'm going to look into that for sure myself. I know this was a presentation on digital marketing campaigns, but somebody had a question about direct mail.
Sure.
What are your thoughts on direct mail, and have you used it? And
yeah, direct mail is, we use direct mail. Typically we'll do it as an overall campaign. So when we're running a campaign, like a case study, we'll reinforce that and send direct mail pieces out there. As far as doing it alone, I mean, look, any type of branding or marketing you do is always good. Any action is better than no action. We do see some benefits with it for sure, but I think we definitely see a better return when it comes to from digital. We can control it more, we can get out there more, we can reinforce that messaging, but it doesn't hurt to utilize, I would say, print in combination with some type of digital strategy if you have the capability to do it.
Thanks. So back on the lookalike, so a lot of questions on this morning. I think that's new. I think that's new to people.
I always get it. It's a normal question. Go ahead.
Well, I mean, just some questions on accuracy for niche organizations that have a very targeted audience. I mean, do you feel it's in your experience, has it been extremely accurate, or do you get a lot of false leads?
For the most part, it's pretty extreme. Yeah, they're always improving it. I wouldn't say it's like the end all be all. When we do that, we do have lookalike audiences, but we also do our own targeting as well. So you could go in and be very specific on what that target audience is and who you're looking to get in front of. And you would do that and plug that into the back end when doing it on running a social media campaign. But it has been very helpful as far as expanding that reach. I mean, Facebook has this artificial intelligence that's essentially taken all these different data points and basically finding these personas that match your perfect donor or your audience and going out there. So yes, it is very successful, and we've seen a lot of success and pretty good accuracy with it. Those case studies you saw, the first three where you saw, some of those success stories, we did lookalike audiences for probably all of them.
Is this available on any level of sponsored post, or does it have to be a huge buy-in? I mean, some of our organizations are doing $100, $50, boosted posts sometimes. Is that?
Yeah, again, I mean, listen, doing something is better than nothing. It depends, it depends on budget. So you just got to get a little more strategic when it comes to, if you have a smaller budget, you just got to get very specific and strategic what you're doing. If you have a little bit of a bigger budget, yeah, of course, that's going to allow you to not only reach more people, but you're going to get your ad in front of more people. Your ad's going to run longer. You're going to be able to target more people. You're going to get more clicks and action to your website. So truth is, yeah, the bigger the ad spend, the more successful it'll probably be. But that's not to say with a smaller ad spend you can't have success. You just need to really think through what you're looking to accomplish and be strategic in what you're doing. But I will say sometimes, think about really what the messaging is and who you're targeting, because sometimes people run sponsored posts, but they're just running a sponsored post. So there's no basis behind it or no strategy. They're not targeting anyone specific. They're just kind of sponsoring the post and putting it out there. So when running a sponsored post, I would at least in the back end of social media really get specific on who you're targeting.
So another question on targeting then. Do you use each of the social media platforms and your website and direct mail? Do you think about each of those audiences separately? Do each of those platforms reach a different audience, or is it kind of across the board, your audience is the same for every platform? Did I say that right?
I think I understand the question. Are you saying essentially would I target people like different audiences based on their attributes? Like would I target, I don't know, somebody that's older versus younger on social media? Is that kind of the question?
Yeah, I mean, would your audience be slightly different on Facebook than it is on Instagram, than it is in the direct mail? Do you make those kind of considerations as you're planning a campaign?
We do. It's one of the things. So typically when you have any campaign, you're going to do a strategic kickoff meeting, right? And you got to really understand like, what is the target audiences? What do those different audiences look like? What is the messaging for each of those audiences? And what is the best way that you're going to get the best return to reach them? And sometimes it's a combination of all three. And typically it is, right? Or a combination of print and digital. Social media, I would say Facebook's probably a bit more impactful than Instagram. Not that Instagram doesn't work. It definitely does. Facebook owns Instagram, as you know. But Facebook probably has a better reach, especially for nonprofits. If you're an e-commerce brand selling some type of beauty product, then I would say, Instagram's probably the way to go. But Facebook for social media, I mean, for nonprofits is definitely the way I would look to focus on.
Interesting. Any other questions? Put them in the chat. Frankie, I think you touched a little bit about this. I had another question. There's been some news articles about the Facebook's boosted posts and the stats they give you being a little bit misleading. Do you have any comment on that? I mean, I don't want you to get in any trouble, but.
No, you're not getting me in any trouble. For the boosted posts that they're
when they report back their conclusions, their stats, that there were some newspaper articles recently that they're misleading, that the views could be microsecond views and they're actually reporting them back to you as a view.
Yeah, but I mean, yeah, that article's like clickbait too. So yeah, that can happen. But when you're reporting, or like when you have data, there's click through, there's time on, so you're able to see what the impact of the ad was, and we have all that data, so it's pretty transparent in that aspect. Plus, at the end of the day, you can't really hide behind the campaign. You're going to know if you had a success, if you've reached out and you've reached more of your audience. So you can't really hide when it comes to that. What are the goals? Who are we looking to reach? Are people coming to the landing page? Are they filling out the form? So at the end of the day, regardless of all that data, it should match up, if working with the right agency, I would say.
So it's important to really analyze the data, and not just superficially.
100%, because the data paints one picture and it's definitely a successful, but like anything, when it comes to data, like based on that reach could be great, but are we reaching the right people? And if we're not reaching the right people, then what do we need to what do we need to tweak? What do we need to change to pivot and make sure that we're getting in front of the right audience? It's a living, breathing thing. There's a lot of A/B testing that you do. You'll put two different ads out there with two different types of messaging, with two different types of visuals, and see what's really impactful and what's driving the right traffic. If one ad gives me 100 people, the other gives me 1,000, but 90 of the 100 are the right audience and people that are actually willing to come to an event or donate, well then, that is the more successful ad, more so than the one that just gives me the pretty statistic that they hit 1,000 times. So it's always looking through that and really going through the data and understanding that.
Great. Somebody asked the question, can you comment more on drip email marketing?
Sure. Drip email marketing, what that is like I said, it's for every action, there's a reaction. So in the back end, you would basically set up let me simplify it actually. Say you have a campaign that you're looking to run, or you're looking to get people to come to an event. You'll have your first email, which is messaging maybe to be about the event, what that is, what it entails, etc. And that'll go out to the list. And then you'll have it set on autopilot for 3 days later, that if nobody clicked on it, they'll then receive this messaging or this email, which will have specific messaging to those people that didn't click on the email and kind of glossed over it, right? But the people that did click on it, they'll get a different type of email that's maybe more specific. Maybe they clicked on it, but they didn't sign up. So now that's going to be a little bit more of a specific email to kind of drive them to take action. So really what the drip campaigns come down to is just trying to make sure that you have the right content in front of the right people for the right action for them to take. So we're just being more specific on the kind of stuff we're feeding them based on the action they took for an email. I don't know if that answered the question. I hope it did.
That definitely answered the question for me, because I've never heard of the concept before. I have to keep reminding people that I'm not a professional fundraiser. So next follow-up question for me, may be stupid, but is that a functionality that's built into email marketing programs like Constant Contact and MailChimp?
Yep, it's all in there. Typically, that's a lot of the, that's the platforms that we'll utilize or use, and most people are on those too. So yeah, it's definitely something that's in there.
Well, that's great. If I take nothing else away from this hour, that's a great tip right there.
Yeah, and even to simplify, like if it could get a little difficult or intimidating when trying to create these different drip campaigns, like as far as like for every action there's a reaction. But one thing you could do is maybe just create 3 different emails with the goal in mind that, okay, everyone on the list is going to get email 1 this week. They're going to get email 2 3 days from now, and then they're going to get email 3 next week. So you could kind of simplify it for yourself a little bit, at least to start creating a more simplified drip campaign if you like.
So we have another question that I've often thought about myself too, is that Facebook groups and joining them and then sharing your posts to them. What do you think about that? Is that an effective strategy?
It is. Even with social media, one of the nice things that you could do is you could actually target those groups too as well. So if they're like, for instance, one thing we would do, you have Facebook groups that you would typically find your audience in, right? Let's say, for example, we can, when you're when you're running a campaign, you could actually target that audience. So it's not going to specifically target within the group, but what it'll do is get your ads and serve your messaging in front of the people that are a part of that group, so they'll see it separately. So yes, actually, being involved within those groups and kind of talking or whatever it might be, I think it helps for sure, because now let's say you're in that group and you kind of promote something, or you're interacting, and now a day later they see an ad. It's just refreshing. Oh yeah, I remember that. Oh, this person spoke. Oh, let me check that out. So just kind of reaffirms who you are, your organization, and allows them to take action when they do see an ad. So yeah, groups are great for sure.
So another question for me, I've recently become addicted to LinkedIn, and is that an appropriate place to do a campaign for your nonprofit and seek engagement and donations, or is that frowned upon?
It's not frowned upon. We do it for sure. It's you're going to get a lot of, for example, with different types of donors. You might be targeting CEOs of specific companies, right? That are willing, or companies that offer or donate to different organizations. So I think it's definitely part of an overall strategy, something worth exploring. We do, not for all, but for some, we definitely do have some kind of LinkedIn presence and promoted ads that we run to reach specific key stakeholders within companies to reaffirm those messaging.
All right. If I missed your question, because they were coming pretty quick in the chat, if you can just repost it. Some people did that as well, but right now I don't see any more. But we still have some time. And as I told you, this part of the presentations are usually a lot more engaging and valuable than the presentations themselves. Not that your presentation wasn't great, Frankie, but I told you this was an inquisitive group.
No, I like to leave questions. I apologize if I went too quick through it. You never know. I try to give as much information, but not kind of let people fall asleep and give too much information where it starts to confuse you. So I like to leave it open to some questions for sure. So happy to answer any other.
All right. Well, here's another question. I think I did miss this one the first time around. So is there a back-end software you recommend that can automate some of this with getting inquiries and triggering emails? I think maybe you talked a little bit about that with the drip email, but are there any other back-end software that you recommend for that?
Yeah, Sprout Social is a good one. That's a good platform that kind of helps you manage all your different social platforms. So you get like an all-in-one dashboard. It's good for managing content and kind of scheduling it out. So I would recommend that. That's a good one.
All right. Any other questions, people? Anybody want to share any experiences of their own to we can learn from them? I think that name again was Sprout Social. Was that Frankie asked somebody asked you to?
Yes. Yep. Yeah, it's really thinking through. I know a lot of times what I'll say is, people run campaigns, and what I'll hear a lot is they're like, oh, we did a sponsored post and we're doing this and we're doing that. But it's really like not only the consistency of doing things, but also, again, just like really thinking through like what are those challenges and what is your social impact, and really just understanding that, so that that messaging is going to be key. It's going to be so key when running different types of campaigns, whether it's email, whether it's social media, whether it's just the content on your website, right? It's all got to tie together. So really thinking through that as an organization, I think is super important.
So on that topic, somebody asked them, what are some of the biggest mistakes that you've seen people make over the years in marketing campaigns?
It's exactly that. I'll go to the slide too. So it's not really knowing the audience and really thinking through these top level things. So listen, we all understand our audience and we know, but it's really thinking through the challenges and building that plan out. So one of the biggest things I would see is people, maybe you're like, okay, I know who I'm targeting, I know what it is, but there's no real strategy behind what you're doing. There's no real consistency. There's no real content calendar that you're putting out there. So for me, it would be really, make sure that you understand those baseline things, have that plan, execute on that plan, and be willing to pivot on that plan. Those are going to be key. don't just kind of, a lot of people, and I get it because it's not what you do every day. So it's tough. I understand it. If you asked me to run a nonprofit tomorrow, I would have no idea. Right. I have a decent idea now just working with other nonprofits, but again, that's not the world I live in. So it better. So it's really understanding those things and kind of as an organization, really with key stakeholders, thinking through those and thinking how you want your organization to be perceived, and what that social impact looks like, and what your mission is, and what your vision is, and who are those people that you're targeting and that are your audience, right? Reaching the right audience. And how do you expand that audience? Where are the other opportunities?
All right, that's great answer, and great questions. So, we do have a little bit more time. While we're waiting for other people to ask maybe some questions, I did want to talk a little bit more about some upcoming events with the nonprofit committee. I was a little off my game at the beginning of the presentation. Apologize for that. But this is the kind of stuff you can expect with the nonprofit committee. We do these educational presentations each month, but this back and forth between the members and the questions they can ask of our presenters is really where we get the most value. So we are working on a presentation for April on peer-to-peer fundraising. We'll have another speaker next month for you guys. So if you guys want to start thinking about that topic and what questions you want to know, you can certainly get those ready. And then for May or June, probably early June, we're looking to do a panel discussion on small business, nonprofit, micro partnerships, and really focusing on the small business end of it and how small businesses can boost their profile by partnering with nonprofits on smaller events. And we're going to be working with Dan Meredith and Nina Turner of the Small Business Council to work on a panel discussion for that. And Joe, do you want to talk a little bit about our Brunch for Love Redux for June? Do we have details to share on that or no?
Sure thing. You will be receiving formal details shortly, but the Meadowlands Chamber will be presenting the Lunch for Love in conjunction with our leadership luncheon, the two events that we do annually. This joint event will be on Friday, June 4th. And it will be a fundraiser as well as a program to honor business leaders who have made an impact on the Meadowlands Chamber and our businesses. So like I said, stay tuned for more details. We'll be sending them over shortly.
Thanks, Joe. And if those of you who haven't been to Brunch for Love or the Leadership Lunch, they're really two of the best events the Chamber puts on during the year, just in the fact that they honor members, leaders in the business community, and exposure for the nonprofits. So really look forward to that. I'm really excited about having both of those events together this year, and being able to get together in person, outdoors safely, and see some people. So that's great. Frankie, we did have another question about website platforms, Wix versus WordPress. They're looking to get off of Wix. Is WordPress the place they should go, or do you have another direction to send them?
WordPress is the way to go. Probably 90% of websites are on it. The back end, although it might seem a little intimidating, it's pretty easy and user-friendly from the standpoint, at least to update content and imagery. So, if you're looking to, code, obviously that's a little bit different, but it's also responsive. Wix, yeah, if you could, I would recommend getting away from Wix. It's not the end of the world. It's not that it's terrible, but I would highly recommend WordPress, not only from an SEO perspective, but just a usability perspective. I know we've had a lot of issues with past clients that were on Wix originally where it wasn't mobile friendly. Again, remember, if your website's not mobile friendly, you're going to take Google's going to knock you down a bunch as well. Google looks at everything. So it has to be user-friendly, usability. All those things have to be considered. So if you don't have a mobile-friendly website, you're gonna lose search engine rankings when it comes to that. So not to get on a tangent, but I would recommend WordPress for sure. Sorry.
No, that's all right. That was the question. Last chance for questions. We're coming up on the hour, and this has been a great conversation. But if you have one more question, we can slide it in under the bell here. I guess not. Well, Frankie, thanks so much for the presentation and for your quick answers to all the questions. We didn't put you on the spot at all. But this has been great. And, you know, Frankie is willing to have people reach out and you want to put your email slide back up again, Frankie,
Sure.
or do you want to just put it in the chat?
Yeah, you know what? I'll just put it in the
Share
chat
screen
real
again.
quick. I'll put in the chat for you guys. You know, yeah, so definitely feel free to reach out if you guys have any questions or any little tips that I can help you with. You know, my goal was, and I hope I didn't breeze through it too quickly, but I wanted to give you enough top level information that will, you know, arm you with enough to kind of take back and be able to at least start putting the foundational pieces in for your organization, and or maybe bring to your current agency if you're working with one, or in the future if that's something you're exploring. At least you're armed with different questions to ask them and prepared when going, you know, with an agency.
No, I think you did all of that and more. And I think everyone's going to be running to their computers now and determining those lookalike audiences.
I hope so.
All right. Thanks again, guys, for coming this morning. And Joe, thank you on behalf of the nonprofits to the Chamber for, you know, supporting us every month and throughout the year. Denise, you have anything to add before we sign off?
No, I just want to thank Frankie very much. It was very helpful, and I have 2 pages of notes, so I'll be getting back to you.
Good. I hope I was able to help you guys. You know, I started off a little slower than I liked. I had my son didn't get a good night's sleep, but I'm glad you guys got something out of it for sure. And again, feel free to reach out with any additional questions.
Will do.
All right. Have a great day, everyone. Hopefully you can get out of the offices or your dining room tables, as the case may be, and enjoy some of the beautiful weather. Or get all your work done today and take tomorrow off. It's going to be even warmer.
Thanks, everyone.
All right. Thank you, guys.
Care.
Bye, guys.